listening to the Truck Talk with Trivista podcast, brought to you by TrivistaCompanies.com, the ultimate source for all things trucking. I'm Anita Massey, Director of Marketing for Trivista Companies. Thanks for joining us. Today our topic is autonomous trucking, as in self-driving trucks. Yes, that's a real thing, and today we're going to be joined by George Brewster, a longtime veteran of the trucking industry, a former truck driver, owner-operator, mechanic, dispatcher, and now a salesman for Trivista. George knows a lot about this topic as he's been in the trucking industry his whole life. So welcome to the podcast, George. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your history with trucking?
Thank you, Anita. I've been in the industry for 35 years now, and as you stated, I've seen it from all angles and feel like that gives me a unique perspective. I can really empathize with our customers' needs, and I see the horizon and it's autonomous trucking. It's coming and I'm excited about it.
Me too. I got to tell you, I was on a recent road trip the other day and I passed a semi with the words self-driving truck on the side of the trailer, and it took me back a little bit. I started thinking about just how many trucks there are on the road, and I just never could have imagined a day when these trucks would have no one behind the wheel. So it's a little scary when I think about a huge truck like that rolling down the highway at 65 plus miles an hour with no human at the controls. But I'm just wondering how all of this works. So that's what we're going to talk about today, folks, so stay tuned. Well, George, I did a little research for our podcast today, and I learned that driverless trucking has actually been practiced for quite a long time. The mining industry was one of the first adopters of driverless vehicles because they could send, these vehicles deep into the mines more safely than they could humans. So today, I think we're seeing it in use in several other industries. In fact, I was reading, and according to Business Insider, they say that there's various tech leaders and financiers that are predicting self-driving trucks will become the norm as early as this next decade. So they're saying it could save the industry an estimated $300 billion. So obviously this is a big deal. Can you talk a little bit about the industries currently using this technology? Which ones are using it?
Sure. Your factories, and as you mentioned, the mining community has been using autonomous vehicles for years now. They typically will go on a track in the factory floor or in the mine and pretty much, just run the same route all the time, back and forth. But it's gotten to the point now with GPS and all the computing power available to us that we've evolved to the next stage, and that is totally driverless trucks. And you're going to see it in your personal vehicles. You're going to see it pretty much across the board, anything you can imagine, local deliveries, heavy hauls, everything. And I think it's going to be a real boon to the industry. You've got, the postal services using it. You're going to have a lot of point-to-point things like JB Hunt and FedEx, UPS, stuff like that. It's going to be really great for the entire industry because you're going to have the drivers that are currently doing those hauls trickle down to the smaller companies that are having a very hard time finding drivers right now. And I can't wait. I'm really excited about it.
Sounds awesome. So this technology then is basically all being done with the standard GPS technology?
Yes. And it's the only thing limiting that right now is the lack of GPS satellites. And they're throwing them up there as fast as they can. It's the only reason your personal vehicle doesn't drive itself right now, although that's changing rapidly. Cadillac currently has put 2.5 million miles on self-driving cars on limited access highways. Of course, Tesla's testing it, and there was actually a tractor trailer that drove itself from California to Florida. There was a person in the cab, but the truck pretty much drove itself.
That's amazing. So is this technology in full production now, or are we still in prototype mode? You mentioned Tesla and Cadillac doing their runs. Those were on limited access highways, right? Not just full interstate. Right. Okay. So is this technology in full production, or is it still prototype?
It is both, actually. They are producing it in the automotive world, but it's limited. And that is going to go by the wayside quickly. Like I say, when they get the satellites up there, you're going to be able to get in your car and say, take me to work, and that car will drive you wherever you need to be.
Okay. How does it work, though? How do the trucks do it? How's the technology geared? I mean, how does the truck know how to navigate the lanes and how to accelerate and brake, not hit another car, things like that?
Well, you already have things like adaptive cruise control, blind spot warning, the anti-rollover stuff. All that is incorporated into the vehicles now. And that'll all be integrated along with more cameras, more sensors, and the GPS technology that's also there now. And when you get all that working together, you've got a truck that's actually going to wind up being safer than having a person driving that truck. And you can better believe that the insurance industry is going to make damn sure that's the case.
No doubt. I could certainly see that. I'm sure they're heavily involved in the design of the technology with the various OEMs. Right? Wouldn't you think that's the case?
Yeah, it's vital that they be safe and that the public is assured that this thing is going to be as good or better than having a human behind the wheel.
So as a truck, like the one I passed the other day, so that truck was basically loaded with cameras and radar and things like that, so it could detect if it was getting too close to the other car. I think I've heard you mention in past conversations that it measures the space and the speed of the vehicle in front of you. It can measure your truck's load weight, things like that, right?
Right.
Okay.
And the radar basically sends out a signal, and it will tell you in a display, okay, the vehicle in front of you is going a couple of miles slower per hour than you are. And it will actually apply the brakes and slow that truck down and keep a safe following distance, depending on how much weight you have on, the weather conditions, the road conditions. It's really amazing technology, and it's all there now. It's just a matter of integration and more satellites, and we're gonna see these things on the road.
That's amazing. So with all of this GPS technology, I guess it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to imagine that if a truck driver is doing the same route week after week, he could program that route into his truck, and the GPS would learn the route and could basically help him navigate, or not him, but the truck, navigate for uphill climbing of hills and mountains and coming down those hills and mountains, and that would help with saving fuel, right?
Yeah, that technology is actually already being built into the trucks. It's a learning process for the computer, but once it learns your route, it will help you run at the hills a little bit to save fuel going up, and then if you're coming back down and the grade isn't too steep, it'll actually put that truck in neutral and go back to an idle state with the engine, saving fuel. And whenever it knows that it's time to get back in gear, it does it for you. Everything's automated. The driver just basically is monitoring everything and makes his life or her life a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess because the truck is not going to have to be outfitted with all of the equipment needed to support a human driver, the tonnage per load could increase because all of those parts on the truck can be eliminated, right?
Well, that's actually a very interesting part of this. You can either take all that weight off for the creature comforts. You don't need a steering wheel. You don't need heating and AC. You don't need a seat. And you can either use that to increase your load, or you can, if you were doing something like produce or something like that that's very time critical and going on a coast to coast type of thing, you could increase your fuel capacity and have that truck basically go from California to New York or something like that and never stop. It doesn't have to take a nap. It doesn't have to get something to eat and do all that. As long as you didn't have any mechanical issues, that truck would go coast to coast nonstop.
That's pretty cool to think about. I was reading that some of the experts estimate that could lower a trucking company's fuel costs by as much as 2/3. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah. Actually, that and the engine and transmission development is just amazing right now. We're knocking on 8 miles a gallon rather, fuel economy, and that's 5 years ago was a pipe dream. And so you couple all the technology that's being built into these engines, all the weight savings, it's the sky's the limit. Yeah, it's going to save a ton of money.
So would this technology then be compatible with International's on-command connection technology that we use here at our dealerships?
Absolutely. You have the ability to monitor every vital function of that truck, including tire pressures, all the sensors on the after treatment, engine, transmission, you name it. Everything on there is monitored one way or another, and that's going to eliminate a lot of downtime. You're going to have a much more efficient repair process, and it's going to increase safety. It's going to enable that truck to do more work with less downtime, less fuel, and be more productive.
That's amazing. So as I think about this technology and just truckers, the trucking industry in general, do you feel like this technology will in any way cause truckers to lose their jobs over the next several years?
No, I do not. They are predicting a 60,000 job, unfilled driver jobs next year. So what's going to happen is I see this being integrated into the warehouse-to-warehouse type hauls that a lot of folks, UPS, FedEx, JB Hunt, they'll use that because that's going to be the easiest thing to get that truck to do. And then those drivers, they're going to be accepted with open arms to all these companies right now that are begging for drivers. I think that the driver pay and benefits are going to stay or increase, and anybody that's looking to do the truck driving job is going to have no problem finding a job. These trucks are not going to hurt that market at all.
Okay. Well, that's, I'm sure, good to know for the trucking industry. And as of right now, it's only being used, we talked about this earlier, on the limited access highway applications, because this GPS system is not quite ready for surface street use. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
But it's heading in that direction?
Rapidly.
Okay, so once they get more of the GPS satellites up and going, then they'll be able to take the driverless truck concept all the way from dock door to dock door, I guess. Okay.
And make multiple deliveries in any place from Cucamonga to New York City. It's not going to make a difference. GPS technology now, it knows where you're at down to about an inch, I think. So, it's coming.
And I guess just from the from some of the benefits of this technology is that not only are the trucks probably going to be safer, but they can pretty much run 24/7, right? Where a human driver behind the wheel is limited because they have to only drive X number of hours a day. And now this technology will allow them to pretty much drive 24/7. And you mentioned no driver fatigue, no driver distractions, definitely improved family life for the driver because he's not using or doing those long haul across the country runs where he's gone for days or weeks on end. So that's definitely a plus as well.
Yes, I see an increase in and the industry's already heading this way, but it's going to be the point-to-point type of hauls that a driver will go as far as legally possible in one direction and then turn around and come back home. And that's already being done across the board with pretty much anything you can think of, is from dry van freight to tankers to flatbeds. They're handing these loads off to another driver to go on and take it to its final destination. And I think that's going to be an industry trend. I think you're not only going to see the autonomous trucks save weight and fuel and everything, but the sleeper truck is going to become a thing of the past, because even if you do have a load that needs to go further than a driver can go in a day, they're going to start putting them in hotels and stuff like that, and it's going to make the driver's job a lot more pleasant and much more palatable.
Mm-hmm. So how will this technology affect our service department here at our dealerships? Are our technicians qualified and equipped? Are we equipped with the right equipment to handle a truck with this type of technology?
Well, it's just like anything else. It's an ongoing developmental situation. You're going to have to do training. You're going to have people specialized in that GPS or what have you that autonomous trucks are going to require. But I have total faith in that we've got really good techs here, I can tell you that. And they will definitely keep abreast of all the changes and make the necessary purchases of programming, laptops, connections, what have you. And I see it being a big boon, actually, because with our on command now, we can get a notice from a truck saying, hey, I have sensor number whatever showing me that there's a problem, and we can schedule that truck in. Then it'll let the customer know, it'll let us know, we can get them back on the road that much faster.
So the truck is basically self-diagnosing itself?
On many things, yes.
Okay. And so would the truck then be able to send a code to their owner and then to us, so that our technicians would know beforehand, hey, this truck's coming in, it's got these problems, and they know exactly where to put it in the service bay, and they can just start working on it as soon as it arrives?
I foresee a time when the truck will send a message to a service manager, and we already have the technology to be able to tell you the severity of the situation. So it'll either be a situation where that truck needs to stop immediately, that truck needs to go ahead and deliver its load and then come get repaired, or come get repaired and then go deliver its load, of course, depending on where it's going and all that sort of thing. And that message will come to both the customer and to our service writer, and they will tell that truck, pull yourself into Bay 3 and we'll get you fixed. And that truck will drive itself into the dealership and pull up to Bay 3, pull itself in there. And all this is going to be done with wireless technology, and I think it's going to be a big time saver. It's going to be a very good thing.
That's pretty cool to think about, seeing a truck pull into the dealership and just, doing all that stuff on its own. So I guess the fear of us losing technicians or not needing as many, that's not really something that we need to worry about. We're still going to need lots of certified technicians, and we'll have to continue our diligent training and certification with those folks.
I think if anything, we're going to need more techs. There's currently the same situation in our garages as there is in the driver world, that there's not enough techs. But I think it will become a more viable option for a lot of young people that are really tech savvy, and they're going to be attracted to that. They're going to be attracted to the computer part of it and all the wireless technology and all that really cool stuff. I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be a huge boon for the industry.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. So what about the overall cost to build an autonomous truck versus a regular truck? Is it more expensive, less expensive? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, like everything else, it'll be economy of scale type of thing. The first few versions will probably be pricey. It'll be something that your larger companies will gravitate to, your first adopter types. But honestly, I don't think it'd be as bad as some people think, because when you think about no AC, no heat, no steering wheel, no seat, no sleeper, all those things that you can remove from that truck because there's no driver, and I think it'll balance itself out very quickly.
And I would think possibly insurance rates would also go down because the insurance companies are not having to worry about being liable for paying for a lost life versus just damage to a piece of equipment.
Yes, when you can scale down the severity of an accident from somebody getting killed to, I hate to say it, but just hurt bad, or on down from that, it's literally millions of dollars saved. And the insurance companies are going to make sure that these things work properly and that they're reliable and that there's fail safes, just like your airliners right now and the autopilot type of thing that they have. They wouldn't allow those to be used if they weren't 100% sure that they were going to work. So the same thing with trucks.
Yeah, that makes me think of back to the day that I saw the truck on the road that said self-driving truck or whatever it said on the side of the trailer. I was actually approaching a construction area, pretty heavy construction area with tight lanes and restricted lanes for the trucks and things like that as I was going up Interstate 65. So I guess this is a good example of that, how the insurance company has to make sure that truck is going to be able to handle itself regardless of the conditions. So that GPS technology is going to tell them of an upcoming construction area or upcoming road closure or lane closure, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I can see it actually going beyond that too. You're going to have times when there's going to be that road closure because of an accident or something like that, and the GPS is going to know that before a driver ever would. So they're going to reroute that truck around that. You're going to save time, you're going to save money, you're going to save congestion in a problem area. And these trucks are already capable of reading the road signs. They know what that speed is. For example, on that piece of road that you were on, they wanted the trucks in the left-hand lane, which is unusual. But because they were running the right lane was the emergency lane, they didn't want them on that tilt and that close to the edge. So they had the trucks in the left-hand lane. That truck will read that sign and it will react appropriately, keeping itself safe and everybody around it.
That is so cool. I love to think about that. The cameras, I guess, are literally reading the signs. And then I guess that would also bear true for impending bad weather, or if the roads are starting to get icy. Are there sensors on the truck that can tell the truck to slow down?
Yeah, right now, if the ambient temperature gets below freezing, the truck gives the driver a warning of potential freezing road conditions. And then if there's any tire slippage at all, the truck will give you notice of that too. And all that is going to go into these, and all this GPS and all that stuff will integrate and keep that truck safe. If it gets to the point where it's not safe to be on the road, period, that truck will find itself someplace to park. Unlike some drivers that are kind of hard-headed and want to keep on going, which if they're not moving, they're not getting paid. So, but the truck is going to be safer in that respect, and all that will be working together. And the technology's already there. It's just integration.
Yeah, as they say, miles is money, right?
Exactly.
Well, George, this has been a fascinating topic, and I think we've covered a lot of ground here today. Thank you for joining me and shedding some light on this amazing technology that's emerging within our industry. Let's continue the conversation another day, and let's stay on top of the latest developments. Until then, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Truck Talk with Trivista podcast. You can find more podcast talks or general information about Trivista Companies and its many dealerships at trivistacompanies.com. Until next time, be safe out there.